This episode is brought to you by Meow Wolf. It's a great week to be a grown-up at Meow Wolf Denver. Enter the Adultiverse starting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 20th to explore the multiverse, drink in hand. And don't miss Bedtime Stories, Meow Wolf's neo-burlesque variety show featuring outrageous performances guaranteed to raise smiles, eyebrows, and pulses on Thursday, November 21st. Find out more about these and other cosmically cool events at meowwolf.com. That's meowwolf.com. This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon. As Thanksgiving approaches, let Pine Melon take the stress out of your holiday planning. Pine Melon delivers high-quality meats, fresh produce, baked goods, pantry staples, and more straight to your door. No subscriptions required, just same-day delivery in a 2-hour window within Denver and Boulder. Go to pinemelon.com and place your order today. And to make your Thanksgiving even sweeter, use code CityCastDenver for $35 off your first order of $75 or more. Support local farmers and makers and save time this holiday season with Pine Melon. Today on CityCast Denver. Trump's cabinet appointments have been nothing short of wild and bizarre, but it was our own Democratic governor's response on social media to one pick in particular that surprised us more. Plus, will the RiNo Business Improvement District become extinct this week? Some business owners say the organization is bloated and mismanaged and they want it gone. I'm joined by a special guest to dig into these stories, plus a listener's thoughts on the struggle to recycle correctly. Today is Tuesday, November 19th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Westward editor Patty Calhoun, good morning.
Good morning.
So we have to start with this tweet from Polis that came late last week. With the rollout of Trump's appointments so far. And he said, quote, Governor Polis said, I'm, quote, excited by the news that the president-elect will appoint Robert Kennedy Jr. to head of the Department of Health and Human Services. He helped us defeat vaccine mandates in Colorado in 2019 and will help make America healthy again, which is interesting to me, by shaking up the HHS and the FDA. What the hell?
We saw that. And of course, we were already in a state of disbelief because we just had Kristi Noem and Matt Gaetz, and the appointments kept getting weirder and
Some
weirder.
Real weirdos.
So then the RFK one comes out, and you are hoping it's also a joke, but it's not. But then we really thought that Polis had been hacked because it seemed so bizarre to go. It would be one thing maybe to just welcome him, although I'm not sure why you would, but to be so effusive about it.
Paragraphs. It
was
this tweet is actual paragraphs.
We couldn't
long.
even figure out how he made a tweet that long, how you get around the rules. So we were like, it had to be a hack. So we called his office, and no, it wasn't. He stood by it. And all weekend, there have been other statements coming out from Polis to clarify kind of what he meant in different ways. But it still doesn't get around that first tweet. Just was really unusual.
Well, and the point you made that this was not just a welcome to the new administration, congratulations, which I agree would still be weird, but something that a lot of politicians do for other politicians in these processes, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that it was like paragraphs about why this is such an amazing appointment. I was looking at the comments on the responses on the tweet, and people were like, are you okay, Polis?
Right. And then Polis in his follow-ups is like, oh, by the way, I just got vaccinated the other day. And I understand the position about being concerned about big pharma.
Okay.
And I like it that Polis wants to take on big pharma. That was about all I saw in that made any sense to me.
And I don't know if most people even saw that.
No, they didn't get that because they had already fainted and were lying on their floors.
Well, because I'm thinking about what I've learned about RFK is that I think he was consulting the government in Samoa a couple years ago and through his anti-vaccine nonprofit. And that country saw an outbreak of measles after some of the consulting that he did with them. And that would gravely concern me as an American and as someone whose governor is co-signing this person to run our entire health system.
It was just in a week full of unexpected things. Let's say this one pushed it off the top for us.
Could we put this in the context of Polis, though? Like, I know he's a libertarian, and we would say there's some of that bodily autonomy, don't tell me what to do mentality that Colorado is really famous for embracing. Whether we do that under the umbrella of libertarian or not, it's definitely part of our, I don't know if I want to say culture, but it's something that we know about ourselves and how we're represented politically. But was this something that's sort of par for the course for Polis, or where did you see that fitting into his other agenda?
It did fit into some of his libertarian agenda, but it fit more into his wackier parts, like when he dressed up as Mork from Ork after Robin Williams died. I mean, he does have these weird, nerdy aspects to him. He does funny social media normally. This just seemed very over the top. And libertarian is one thing, but here's a man who's been appointed to the cabinet who says a worm's eaten his brain. Let's not forget the bear in Central Park. There are a lot of things that make him an unusual choice for the cabinet.
On top of, I read the whole Vanity Fair expose looking into some of the sexual assault allegations around RFK. I mean, unfortunately, that also is something that seems totally okay with the Trump administration.
I think it's a requirement for someone being appointed to the cabinet.
It kind of feels like that. But I mean, there was a CPR article that breaks down an ER nurse who was Senator Kyle Mullica was the main sponsor of a bill in 2019 to tighten Colorado's vaccine exemption process. It was not a vaccine mandate and still allowed for personal belief exemptions. At the time, Colorado had the country's lowest kindergarten vaccination rate for measles, mumps, and rubella. Kennedy opposed the bill and met with Polis about it. So they've maybe been friends for a while around this particular topic.
Well, it's still a pretty big mystery why he decided he really needed to go all in on this and then pull back all weekend.
I was just going to say the pulling back is really hard to do after you've made a statement online, period, but let alone one that detailed. Do you think that this will have any impact on how Coloradans see their governor?
Probably not. I mean, he will go out and explain it enough that at this point, I think people are just twisting in the wind anyway. They can't quite figure things out. Polis only has 2 more years. I don't think it's going to impact his effectiveness at the legislature. But I think people might think twice if there's another health crisis, depending on how he handles it.
When we just saw in the last decade, one of the biggest health crises for the world in, I don't know, a century.
Right. I mean, vaccinations for COVID, you didn't see him like wanting to make those very optional.
Yeah, that was what was weird to me was I didn't remember him ever being someone who was really anti-vaccine. So it was very surprising to me. Also, there was this moment last week, I think, when Polis joined with the governor of Illinois to be like, we are the democracy's superheroes. We're defending you. And so when that statement came out and then this one, I was just more confused.
On Tuesday, he and Pritzker, Governor Pritzker of Illinois, joined together. It was vague but somewhat comforting that they're like, we're going to fight to stay independent, push democracy. We will do everything we can as states. They didn't give a lot of details, but at least they made a statement. That was a good statement. This one was a little more confusing. I haven't seen Pritzker's position on RFK yet. But Pritzker, given the drug connections, probably isn't so pro-RFK.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was just very surprising to me, especially coming after that statement with Pritzker, because I think there's just a lot of unease right now because there's going to be so much put on the states, right? As states start to fight back against the U.S. government on what they want to do for themselves and their citizens. And that's what I felt like that statement was about, was like, we are still here for you, whether we know what's going on with the federal government or not. And then for him to not only champion someone that Trump has appointed, but to this way, just, I don't know. It's a lot.
Right. I would think it would make healthcare industry in Colorado, people
nervous.
Who use healthcare in Colorado, a little nervous.
Yeah, actually, I should check in with my healthcare people and see, because I'm even just thinking about at the height of the pandemic and what that looked like for healthcare workers and what they were fighting against. And I remember we were talking about viral moments a couple weeks ago, and there was that photograph of the nurses standing in the way of these folks that were fighting the vaccine, doing their, anti-vax protest or whatever. And when you have your governor maybe not siding so much with healthcare, that can be a little bit scary. Ugh, I guess this is one to watch.
Definitely. I mean, we'll have the healthcare recall. I was just reading about the onions, the McDonald's onions that came from Colorado.
And we had another E. coli outbreak this weekend with carrots.
But McDonald's is paying $100 million to get over that bad name from the bad onions from Colorado.
Well, hopefully Governor Polis doesn't get us in a similar mess.
We'll see.
We'll see. This episode is brought to you by Warren Village. Warren Village provides supportive housing with a preference for single-parent families experiencing housing instability. Their program model supports the growth of both parent and child, with on-site childcare for children and supportive services for parents like education, workforce skills, mental health support, parenting and financial education, and more. Celebrating 50 years this year, Warren Village will be opening their newest campus, Warren Village at Alameda, very soon. This new Warren Village campus is right by my house. I've been watching them build it. It's kind of awesome. This Southwest Denver campus will serve 89 families in the community. Warren Village serves 600 individuals across all locations, with 85% of folks identifying as BIPOC, and a majority are single mothers with one child under the age of 5. Learn how to get involved or make a donation today at warrenvillage.org. That's warrenvillage.org. This episode is brought to you by Unit E. Unit E is an award-winning underground record label based in Denver that specializes in showcasing the best music the Mile High City has to offer. By joining the Unit E 7-inch record club, you will be in the know about Denver's hottest artists, like Los Mocochetes, the band you hear at the opening of this very podcast every episode. The Mocochetes are just one of many acts you'll get new music from when you subscribe. So how does the Unit E 7-inch record club work anyway? Well, it's simple. Sign up now, and for just $39 a year, you get 4 7-inch records, one each season, sent right to your doorstep. This means you get to add new music to your record collection while supporting local artists directly. Join the Unit E 7-inch record club today. Just go to unitedenver.org to sign up. That's UNITE Denver.org. Oh, and if you use the code CityCast at checkout, you get an additional record for free. Happy listening. All right, our next topic, less spicy, but I have to say is an interesting turn for the city, which is the RiNo Business Improvement District, which is a business improvement district. The too long didn't read version is a special taxing district that a section of a city, usually a group of businesses, will take on themselves, and this extra tax will help them fund things that they feel like maybe aren't being provided by the city adequately enough, like better trash service, or sometimes it's security, sometimes it's art activations. It's a lot of different things. But this particular bid, this business improvement district in RiNo, is up for renewal, which has to be a decision made by the board itself to continue on with the tax. And they're voting on it this week. And some of the businesses and the business owners that essentially started this bid are saying, we don't want the RiNo bid anymore. And they have a couple of reasons why. But I was wondering, Patty, what did you think when you saw this story initially, that these business owners are saying, we're not interested in this thing we helped create?
It's not hugely surprising, because let's go 10 more years back. So the RiNo Art District was started by 2 artists.
Which is separate from the RiNo bid
district, mm-hmm. But it plays into this. Yes. And so you think about what that area was like 20 years ago, and it was a dusty warehouse district. It was not really a residential area. You didn't have apartments.
Very industrial.
There were 3 maybe single family homes, little ones. Didn't have the huge apartments facing Brighton Boulevard now. It was empty, industrial, the warehouses that didn't have like pig ear factories, because I remember we wrote about the pig ear factory, often had artists who were there in studios or doing warehouse concerts. So it was a really interesting part of town that you cannot believe existed now when you drive along RiNo, where you just, going down Brighton Boulevard, you just see apartment complex after apartment complex.
I mean, there's even sidewalks now. There weren't sidewalks for most of the time I was hanging out.
But there was open space. Now you have the sidewalk and then a building jumping up for 8 stories. You don't really have a pedestrian village friendly type place. So since 2005, when RiNo Art District was created, up to 2015, that became such a hot area, largely because of artists. Mm-hmm. So where artists goes, developers will go. They priced out the artists. They brought in a lot of mom and pop businesses. I mean, the the motorbike business that's going. Yeah.
The motorsports company, too, is one of the original businesses that helped start this business improvement district.
Right. And now a lot of them don't like the way it's going, where there's not a lot of art there. And what the bid is doing is paying for some of the art activation. And the businesses think if they're putting the money in, they need other things. So you have different generations all peeved at what's happening in RiNo.
And I wrote extensively for you about this shift in RiNo and around particularly Rhinoceropolis and Glob, the two very staple DIY venues in the space. That's not to say there weren't a ton of other venues and galleries and workspaces happening there as well. But I mean, honestly, Patty, I think about it and it feels like 100 years ago looking at that change.
It does. It's amazing. I remember talking to someone who used to do marketing for the city, and he's like, we've got to make Brighton Boulevard a better entrance into the city because we just have these warehouses and it looks so bad. And now we look and go, and this looks better. Now we have a lot of really not interesting apartment complexes and one with a tree growing out of it.
Which some people would say is very interesting.
That is the most interesting thing you can see.
But so I guess I want to dig a little bit further into why they're disgruntled about the situation. And I think a big part of it is what you're talking about right now, which is initially these business improvement districts are funded by mill levies, which are the taxes, and I think the tax rate is decided by the group, like how much they want to tax themselves to create the funding to do the things they want to do. But that is often based on property taxes. Well, property values have gone up exponentially in RiNo in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And there was a quote from, there's a petition going around to dissolve the bid, and they said, the budget has grown from $650,000 a year at its inception to $3.4 million today. And they say that the original goals have been achieved and it's therefore no longer necessary to continue to fund the bid. So they're saying the tax, these businesses are paying this tax. It's creating this huge budget. They don't necessarily think that this organization needs that kind of a budget to do what they feel that they're not doing.
When you have such different kinds of businesses down there now, so you still have some retail, not much. You've got the apartment complexes where they like the activities because it makes them seem more attractive. But some of the mom and pop businesses, the few that are still there, they don't like the fact that, for example, a whole block of Larimer is now blocked off, so you don't get traffic going through. It was to activate the shops and the restaurants
and the outdoor patio situation that we had during COVID.
Right, and it's great for the restaurants. It's great for creating lively nighttime activities there, but for businesses that operate during the day, they don't love it. So that is one of the reasons they aren't supportive of the bid continuing.
That's interesting. So there's the infrastructure part, there's the funding part. Another thing that they said is, so you kind of alluded to this, but so the RiNo bid is separate from the art district, but the art district was brought in to manage the bid. And one of the complaints is the RiNo art district right now has co-CEOs, co-chairs, co-leaders. And I think they're saying it feels like there's a little bit too much bureaucracy happening, and we're paying for that with the bid money, with our tax dollars, and we don't think it's being spent wisely. And I thought that was really interesting. And so I checked in with a friend of mine who has worked in the bid world for many years, helping create these things. And he said that would be one of the easiest things that they could do right now is say, okay, why don't we cut this down to one position instead of two people if you guys want to save some money? But also things they could do would change the tax rate. They have the ability to do that. There's ways that they could do it without totally dissolving it. Do you think that the bid is in danger of being totally dissolved?
I think they'll probably come up with some kind of compromise because you look at it, they do need probably more attention than they're getting from the city of Denver. Ballpark neighborhood, which is just below, just passed a bid during the last election that is very similar because they feel like they need more security. They need more identity. They need more business and help and trash, just that basic infrastructure thing. And I would think RiNo is still going to need that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought up the ballpark one, too, because theirs was really focused on what's called clean and safe in the bid world, which is the trash stuff. And you see these folks on the working for the Downtown Denver Partnership on the 16th Street Mall all the time. You'll see them coming out with picking up extra trash, not just emptying the trash bins, but like picking up litter and around and stuff like that. And I know that's what the ballpark was really, their bid was really focused on, that as well as security. And that's something that the RiNo bid says they're not getting, which is the art part is great. these art activations, but like we want more security because, again, this is where something the city can't really provide. And I just wonder, can they get those things and have those things without having to totally dissolve this entity, and maybe start over?
That's what I don't know, how much they can adopt it and how many things they can do before the vote. So they just had the public hearing on the 13th, right? And now the vote is supposed to be the 20th, I think?
It's this week.
So they're going to have to move fast. If, on the other hand, I just heard that the petition only had 30 signatures
It's not
so far,
very big, yeah.
But that was in a day or two, so we don't know what the total number of votes will be on that.
And so the bids board will make the vote, but then I think city council has to approve it. And my bid expert was saying if enough people come and make noise at city council, that could change how city council views this. But at this point, I think they're most likely just going to sign off on whatever the bid has decided.
It's hard to know, just depending on who is doing the complaining, because the right people can get the right ears at city council. One of the things about it is, from the Inc. controversy back there about gentrification in this area, we lost the artists, but there wasn't a lot of residential. There weren't a lot of low working class residents there, just because that was already gone. If it had been there like 40, 50, 60 years ago, that had been replaced by warehouses. So you didn't have a lot of residents, old-time residents, to be upset. But you have old-time workers who can be upset.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point too. And I thought what was interesting is this is one of those areas that developers have a big presence in because they were building so much sort of from scratch.
Because there were empty spaces in very exciting hot Denver.
But some of these developers are on some side of this, another. I mean, there isn't a consensus from what I've read that everybody feels like one way or the other. It's kind of it's in a weird place, and I think it's just a great example of re-examining what we decided to do 10 or 15 or 20 years ago in the context of what Denver is today.
It's fascinating because the art activation has been great, but the art activation originally happened volunteer free. That's what made it cool. That's what made it great. And then when it becomes bureaucratic, that is trickier.
Yeah.
And people are really divided on what they think has happened in RiNo. Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Yeah, I was like, I have some very strong feelings about it. But
as do I.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing because the art component, it's just much more complicated than folks realize. Like, yes, they do a mural festival, but before that, like you said, when the art district was actually formed, that was 2005. Most people were not thinking about art in that area unless you were an artist yourself or part of the art scene. And now I wonder how people think about art when they go to the art district.
Right. Do they think it's just like a giant Great American Beer Festival once a year?
Totally.
As opposed to it was living, breathing art back in 2005.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the bid vote goes on this later this week. We may not have a RiNo Business Improvement District anymore, or it may continue business as usual. And that will be interesting to see how that impacts the neighborhood. There
are a lot of strong people on both sides in RiNo, but I think they will probably come up with some kind of compromise.
I think so, too, because I think that some of these folks they don't just want to get rid of it, but they want to see a new direction and maybe less of a tax burden. I think that's one of the things these business owners are saying is this is just very expensive for me. And like you said, maybe they aren't part of that section of Larimer that's benefiting from the closure. They feel like they're losing out because that main artery is closed in their community.
Right. And their property taxes are going so high, which means the amount they're paying to the bid is going higher.
Yeah.
And they need to save every penny they can. It is not easy for retail businesses.
Not right now, for sure. Well, Patty, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure.
This episode is brought to you by Denver Health. Not sure if you need urgent care or the emergency room? Denver Health has you covered. For non-life-threatening issues like cold symptoms, minor injuries, abdominal pain, and even stitches and x-rays, Denver Health's urgent care is your go-to choice. Just walk right in. No appointment is needed. With 4 convenient options including adult care, pediatric care, virtual visits, and a downtown location at 16th and California, Denver Health makes it easy to get the care you need when you need it. But remember, if you're facing a serious life-threatening condition, head to the emergency room right away. Urgent care is for those unexpected issues that need quick attention but aren't emergencies. Plus, Denver Health accepts most insurance plans. Check out Denver Health's amazing 5-star reviews on Google. Patients love Denver Health Urgent Care. Learn more at denverhealth.org/urgent care. That's denverhealth.org/urgent care.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
And we're back. I am here with producer Olivia Jewel Love. Hi.
Good morning, Bree.
So, Liv, we're going to jump into some comments and questions from our listeners, which is the thing we do every Tuesday. And we just love to hear from you all. We love it. You could listen to an episode from 5 months ago and you want to respond to it. You can always call in at 720-500-5418 and let us know what you're thinking about what we're talking about on the show. What do we have this week?
I've got a voicemail for us to listen to.
Cool.
Hey, it is Dan from Glendale calling regarding your recycling. Thought it'd be interesting to look at how many apartment buildings are actually recycling. I know I was currently at a Cornerstone where I would watch the recycling truck come and dump, or their garbage truck dump both. So, interested in hearing more. Thanks.
This is not an uncommon thing I've heard from folks, that they don't believe that they're recycling, even if they're putting the effort in as the consumer. Once it gets out of their apartment or where they live, it doesn't necessarily go into the recycling truck.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about this one because I just moved into a new apartment. And this is something I've dealt with in all the states I've lived in. It's like figuring out where the damn recycling is. I'm like, I don't know. A lot of them, some of them don't have it. My last apartment did have it, but it wasn't next to the trash. I had to like go around the corner behind this like shed, behind the like maintenance shed. I had to go behind it, and there was one recycling bin, and I don't think half the people knew it was recycling, even though it said recycling. So there'd be trash in it too. And that means like it's contaminated, so they can't recycle it. So it's like, it's super frustrating.
It's an access issue.
Well, as a person who lives in an apartment, it's super frustrating because I want to recycle. I want to recycle.
I think most people do.
I think most people do, and it's not that hard. But it is hard when you don't have access to a recycling bin.
Well, or that it's made much harder. It's like a maze or a puzzle versus like, so for instance, in my mom's building, she's in a condo. You walk out her door and you walk into the stairwell and there's a trash chute. Trash. So you can literally walk out your door and drop your trash. Recycle, you have to go down to the parking garage, and then you have to like go to a separate section of the parking garage and take your recycle over there. And it's not to say that people won't do that, but it's sometimes, like you said, they don't even know where that is.
It's hard because when I was in college in Missouri, one of my apartments I lived in didn't have recycling. And I was so hell-bent on recycling that I would collect it, me and my roommate's stuff, I would collect it and take it to the recycling center. I would drive over to the recycling center and take it over there. And it's just, you know, it's such a hard thing to do when you are disabled or you have issues with executive function or you're sick.
Or just thinking about people that don't have, maybe you don't want to have a car. You're going to take your recycle on the bus?
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And I don't know. I just moved into this new apartment and, you know, my garbage dumpster is very close and there's 2 garbage dumpsters when they're right next to each other. And one of them could be recycling and it's not. And I'm just kind of getting disillusioned at this point. It's been like 10 years of this fight of trying to be a good person. Virtue signaling. But
but to be a good, do your part.
Doing my part.
Right.
And at this point, I'm like, it's hard, you know? It's taking so many metaphorical spoons from me to do this thing, which, like this person pointed out, I don't even know if it's being recycled, frankly.
Right.
You know, you see so many things. You see those bins where it's like, here's the slot for recycling. Here's the slot for trash. They go into the same bag. That's kind of how it feels like a lot of the time.
Or you hear from folks who are like I have a friend that worked in sort of green energy and was like, if you don't like expertly clean out your detergent bottle or you don't like scrub out your yogurt container, it goes into the contaminated one. And I was like, ooh.
It's just hard. It's hard to feel like you're making a difference, and it's hard to know how to make a difference, especially when it's made really hard. So
I just want to say, even from our listener, he's trying.
He's trying. He's pointing
best
out this big problem that I was thinking about this weekend as I was getting settled into my new apartment. I was like, dang it.
Well, hopefully this is maybe something that City Council could take on in another capacity, because I think half of half of Coloradans are renters.
Yeah.
And that's a big portion of folks that are probably living in multifamily buildings or apartment buildings. And they want to have that option too.
Well, I saw a comment from someone too that's like, are our apartments going to get composting?
Right.
Not that it's really working out well for a lot of single family homes, but
But
why
it doesn't
can't-
mean you don't want to have the option as well.
I would love the option, but right now I've got a big dumpster, and that's what I've got, and I've got to pick my battles at this point. So,
Well, Olivia, thanks for popping in and helping me with tackle the trash, the ongoing trash problem.
of course, love trash.
After we recorded this episode, we learned that Trump announced that he would be nominating Chris Wright to the Secretary of the Department of Energy. Wright is the CEO of Denver-based fracking company Liberty Energy, but may be best known for drinking fracking fluid on camera to show that he believes it to be safe. The CEO also said in a video posted to LinkedIn last year that, quote, "There is no climate crisis and we're not in the midst of an energy transition either." That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell RFK Jr. about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya. Girl Boss Alert, after we recorded this episode,